That is the distance between the trophy Alex Eala lifted in Washington on August 3rd and the third-round match she is playing tonight in Cincinnati. In that window, she moved from world number 28 to a career-high number 20 in the PIF WTA rankings, and by August 15th, her live ranking was reportedly projected higher still. She arrived in Mason as the 17th seed, drew Elena Gabriela Rus in the second round, and led 6-1, 3-love before Rus retired with a right foot injury. That win set the collision. And here is the line she used in her pre-tournament press conference, the one worth writing down. Momentum, she said, is a thing, but it is not concrete, and it does not give you any 100% answers. That is the player Amanda Anisimova is facing tonight, not a highlight reel. A 21-year-old who has decoupled her belief from her results. Let us be fair to the woman across the net, because this story does not work if she is not real. Amanda Anisimova is a legitimate top 10 player having a legitimate top 10 season. She reached the Wimbledon final in 2025. She lost that final to Iga Świątek 6-love, 6-love in 55 minutes. And then she did something almost no player does. She came back a month later at the US Open and beat Świątek in the quarterfinals. In January 2026, she climbed to world number 3, becoming the American number 1 ahead of Coco Gauff. She is currently ranked world number 10. She is seated 9th in Cincinnati. She is playing at home in front of an American crowd. And in her second round match, she dispatched Zeynep Sönmez 6-2, 6-3 without ever looking troubled. If you dismiss her because Eala is having a beautiful summer, you are not watching tennis, you are watching a narrative. So the question tonight is not whether Amanda Anisimova is a great player. She is. The question is which player on this night in this building is peaking harder. And here is the strangest wrinkle of the entire matchup. These two women have never played each other, not once. Not in juniors, not in qualifying, not on the tour. Their head-to-head is 0-0. Anisimova has no film that fits this version of Eala, and Eala has never had to solve this version of Anisimova. That is the tension, not villain against hero, data against data, and heart against heart. Now let us walk through what the last month actually says, because this is where the case for the upset, the title promises, either holds up or falls apart. The first piece of evidence is that 6-love. Alex Eala closed the Washington final against Jessica Pegula by dropping just 8 points across an entire set. 6-love against the world number 3 in a final she was losing at 4-6, 6-4, 4-3 when rain suspended the match. When play resumed, she won the last 9 games. A player who serves a bagel to a top 3 opponent to lift her first tour title is not, at that moment, a feel-good story. She is a threat. The second piece of evidence is the seed line and how far it lags behind reality. Eala is world number 20, seeded 17th in Cincinnati. Anisimova is world number 10, seeded 9th. On paper, that is an 8-place gap. On form over the last 30 days, that gap does not exist. Seeds are lagging indicators. They tell you where a player was, not where a player is. The third piece of evidence is the one that stops the seed. Argument cold. In Washington, Alex Eala did not have a lucky bracket. She had a mountain. She beat the second seed, Elena Svitolina. She beat the third seed, Naomi Osaka. She beat the 7th seed and defending champion Leylah Fernandez. She beat the top seed, Jessica Pegula. And along the way, she beat the 2024 Olympic gold medalist, Zheng Qinwen. That is 4 seeds and a Grand Slam champion in a single week, on hard courts in a WTA 500 event. That is not a wildcard fluke. That is a systematic dismantling of tiered opposition. Take one breath here, because the next number is the one that reframes the entire conversation. 7. 7 top 10 wins for Alex Eala in the 2026 season. As of the week she lifted the Washington Trophy, she was tied with Elena Rybakina and with Elena Svitolina for top 10 wins on the year. That is the company she is keeping on the stat sheet. Not in the imagination of Filipino fans. Rybakina Svitolina and a 21-year-old from Manila in her first full season inside the top 30. The fourth piece of evidence is that empty head-to-head, 0-0. In a data versus heart matchup, the total absence of prior data is itself a story. Amanda Anisimova prepared this week for a player she has never seen from her own side of a net. She watched the Washington footage, she watched the Ruse match, she talked with her team about a lefty forehand that lives on the run, but there is a difference between watching a player and playing a player, and that difference, tonight, is the biggest unknown in the entire draw. The fifth piece of evidence is the one people forget, and it belongs to Anisimova. She has a Wimbledon final on her resume. She has beaten Swiatek at a Grand Slam. She is playing in the United States in a stadium where the ambient sound leans her way. If Eala wins tonight, she wins over a fully credentialed opponent playing at home. That is what makes the upset, if it is happening as this video goes live, a real one, not a manufactured one. The story only works if you respect the woman on the other side of the net. And the sixth piece of evidence is the one Eala herself planted in the Cincinnati press room before any of this began. Asked what would count as a successful week, she did not say a title. She did not say a semifinal. She said, and this is close to a direct quote from her transcribed pre-tournament press conference, that if she lost the first round but played a really good match, it wouldn't be a successful week, but it wouldn't be a bad one. And if she reached the final, she would take that too. A player who has separated outcome from performance is the worst kind of opponent in a high-stakes match. She has already won her mental battle before Amanda Anisimova serves the first ball. Greg Rusetsky, the 1997 U.S. Open finalist and former world number 4, spoke about Eala's Cincinnati draw this week in comments reported by Tennis 365. His framing, in essence, was that Eala should not be intimidated by the size of her assignment here, because the version of her that showed up in Washington is the version that changes what tough draw even means. That is a former Grand Slam finalist saying out loud that the ranking gap is not the story anymore. And if you want a second voice, look at what Jessica Pegula's own scoreline said in the Washington final. When a top 3 player loses the last 9 games of a match and closes the third set, winning 8 of the final points, that is a body of testimony no press conference can unsay. Naomi Osaka went out in the quarterfinal. Leylah Fernandez, the defending champion, went out in the semifinal. Alina Svitolina, a 2-time Grand Slam semifinalist, went out in the round of 16. These are not fans in a Manila sports bar telling you Eala is dangerous. These are 5 ranked professionals whose scoreboard said the same thing in the same week. That is the authority stack. It is not one commentator. It is the tour itself, receipt by receipt, in the 8 days before she arrived in Ohio. Now widen the lens, because the stakes tonight are not just this match. They are a ranking arc, a tour arc, and a country arc, and each one has a hard number underneath it. Ranking arc first. Eala walked into Cincinnati at world number 20. If she beats Anisimova tonight, the projected movement pushes her deeper into the top 20, with a live ranking that some Filipino trackers on August 15th had already reportedly placed at world number 18. Tour arc second. 7 top 10 wins in a single season is the kind of tally that keeps a player mathematically alive in the conversation about the year-end WTA finals in Riyadh. It is not a lock, it is not close to a lock, but it is a conversation that did not exist for her 60 days ago, and it exists now. Country arc third. The Philippines, as of August 3rd, has for the first time a WTA Tour singles champion. That is not a slogan. That is a WTA record book entry, dated. Add a win over a world number 10 on the way to the U.S. Open, and that record book entry gains a second line. And then the U.S. Open itself beginning in a little over a week, where Eala said in Cincinnati that her goal is to get her first Grand Slam win. She has never won a main draw Grand Slam match. If she is the player who walked out of Washington That number changes in New York. If she is the player who walks out of Cincinnati tonight with a scalp over Anisimova, it changes with a different kind of pressure attached. The kind that says the draw is watching her, not the other way around. None of this happens in a straight line, and the script owes you the setback. 6 weeks ago at Wimbledon, Alex Eala was leading Jasmine Paolini in the 4th round. She lost 4-6 in the first, 6-4 in the second, and Paolini closed it out from there. It was, at the time, the deepest run of her Grand Slam career, and it ended the way most young players' first big slam runs end, with a lesson delivered by a former Roland Garros finalist. And there was another one, older but still fresh in her file, at Eastbourne in 2025, where she had 4 championship points against Maya Joint and lost in a 3rd-set tiebreak. The New York Times Athletic explicitly framed the Washington title this month as the answer to that Eastbourne night. She learned to close. She learned that a rain delay in a final does not have to be a disaster. She learned, in her own words after the Washington final, that she ended the tournament in better shape than she started. That is a player who has processed her losses instead of hiding from them. Which brings us to tonight, and to the title of this video, and to what any honest tennis channel has to say about it. If the crowd in Cincinnati has already gone wild in the way Filipino fans came here to make it go wild, then Alex Eala has just added a world number 10 to a summer that already contained a world number 3, a Grand Slam champion, a defending champion, and a Wimbledon slayer. If it has not, then this is the match that told us how close she is. Either way, the room she is in tonight is a room where Amanda Anisimova is a scheduled opponent, not a screensaver. It is a room where Jessica